What's crack-a-lackin'? Alright. So I just saw The Strangers Pray at Night. Um, and the only reason I went to see this is because I work at a movie theater and I could see it for free, so I was like, why the heck not? Um, so it's a sequel to The Strangers, which I actually haven't seen yet. I might sometime. That came out like 8 or 9 years, like 9 or 10, I think. It's either 2008, 2009, when this movie came out. The first one, and it's pretty decently received. People are like, "Oh yeah, it's a good horror film," and so for some reason they decided to make a sequel, um, which I bet now most of the people, a lot of people probably don't even remember the original one. Um, so whatever, and the only thing that makes it a sequel is it has the same name and the same three masked people from the original. Other than that, nothing connects it. I don't know. There could be some references in there, but I doubt it. So it's basically just a standalone horror movie, and it was fine. Eh, Um, I wouldn't say it was terrible. I've seen much worse, but it wasn't good either. So it's like a 5 out of 10. So the story is basically the most simplest horror story you can come up with. Um, family goes. They're taking their daughter to like a boarding school, and they stop and are at they go to visit their aunt and uncle, whatever. They end up are dead at this trailer park, and so now this family of crazy people wearing masks try to kill the family, and that's our story. So I want to. I mean, when it comes to horror movies, slasher films, it's hard to have you know a completely unique story, and I wouldn't say, oh, this is so unoriginal and so whatever. I think if you can take a story, like this, and if you do it right, I say, hey, it's a good movie, even though the story isn't the most original. Because there's always crazy people in the world, and stuff like this actually does happen. So, but was it executed well? So the movie starts off. We find out that the family's moving and stuff. Well, not the family's moving. They're sending the girl off to boarding school. Because she's a troubled kid. We don't really see any of that, and it's just like mentioned, and I kind of try to give this backstory, and the first I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes of it is just them, you know, going going to the place, kind of giving some backstory, which has nothing really to do with the rest of the movie. Um, we don't really see any of that character in her throughout the movie. Nothing. It basically just introduces the characters and says, "Okay, here's the people, so we can have a movie." So it doesn't just start off with them dying. It tries to give a little bit of backstory, but really it's just kind of almost filler. You know, the opening really I don't think set anything up. It didn't establish an atmosphere of this trailer park because I was watching. I'm like, you know what? This trailer park is actually I think it's a good setting for a horror movie. Um, but it doesn't really establish it. They get there and they go into their trailer and that's it. Some of the great horror movies they really establish the area, and it's really a character of the movie. The Shining. Um, I had so many examples in my head. Even Texas Chainsaw Massacre, uh, the Evil Dead movies. They build up this environment, and here you don't really get that. And I feel like it could have been a really sweet thing if it was established a little more. Um, and the characters are fine enough. They're pretty basic, you know, cutout characters. Anybody can relate to because they're just kind of blank slates. Other than the one kid, she's the rebel, which is kind of done a lot, and I just wasn't really feeling it. So, but really, the only reason to care is because they're people, and you don't want to see people get murdered, and they're decent enough people. It's not like you actually care about the person exactly. It's just, oh no, um, this person that could be me is gonna die. So I'm not gonna say they did a terrible job with the characters, terrible job with the story. It's just very, very simple. Um, now the actual horror, like the scary parts of the movie, some of them were actually done were pretty decent. They actually build up some tension, and I think they're executed okay. Um, to make it entertaining, so the movie's not boring. So I'd say I wasn't really scared. I don't find scary movies really scary, but I would say there is some, entertainment in there. Um, it's not all just trash, but um, the scenes are so dark and the cinematography just is so terrible. Because I mean, it's lit enough that you can see what's happening, um, but you barely, and it's just dark and it just doesn't look good because everything's in darkness. Um, I don't know. Maybe they didn't have a very big budget, and so they just made everything dark. So, whatever. But when there's no lighting, you don't really have any composition or any, anything. Nothing looks good because you can't see anything. Um, there's a few scenes when they got some lights and stuff, like at the very end in this scene in a pool. Um, they actually look pretty decent. I like, but the rest of the movie it doesn't look good because there's nothing to really see. For the most part, the editing is pretty competent. It's not super cutty, jumping all over. It can get like that at a few spots, but for the most part, it's actually handled okay. And you can pretty much tell what's going on. Um, but throughout the movie, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what the heck are you doing? It's like, it's cliche to do that in a horror movie, but seriously, why are you standing there staring at the thing for an hour when you could just run? And I feel like there's so many circumstances in the movie where they could have easily gotten away if they didn't just stand there and stare. Um, and it's kind of a cliche in horror movies too, where like they hear noise and they slowly go towards it and stuff. And sometimes that works and it's actually okay. But I swear that happens like every 10 minutes, every other scene in this movie. It's like I hear like the first time I understand, you don't really know what's going on. You're like, oh, what was that? Let's go investigate. But there's psycho killers, you know, in the area, and you hear a little creaking noise, and you're gonna be like, oh, I wonder what that could be. Maybe it's somebody gonna help me. No, it's a killer, and they go and they find it after staring at it for 10 minutes, and then it is the killer. It's like, oh, what'd you expect, stupid? Um, so that was a little frustrating. Um, and and then there's also the scene in a pool where they had this fight, and there's, whatever. But the thing is, this takes place. I don't know when in the year, but it takes place during a time when this trailer park is closed. So it's only open in the summertime and probably the spring. But it's not the winter because they're running around in t-shirts and shorts and stuff. And, it seems like it's warm out. There's not snow or anything. But I guess that doesn't really matter. But still, um, the whole park is closed, but the pool is open and it's perfectly clean and there's no cover on it. It's full of water. I think the scene is actually pretty decent. I think it's probably my favorite scene in the movie. But I was just sitting there going, "What? That shouldn't be like that." Um, you know. And usually I don't point out little flaws like that in movies, but if the movie's good enough, but at some point you're just like, I don't care, what the heck? That shouldn't be like that. Um, yeah. So some of the scenes too, like where the killers get to them and stuff, are a little short. Like the killer finds them, and then just kill them, and it's like I thought they would, draw it out a little bit more. I mean, I don't know, but it was a decent enough movie, and it's short too, so if you want to watch it, it's not gonna waste a bunch of your time. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, which I think is a perfect length for it. If it went any longer, I think I would dislike the movie a lot more because it would just be like overstay its welcome. it got boring, but it's short enough that you can watch it and not hate it. So, I'd say it's a decent enough movie. I wouldn't recommend it. Definitely, I wouldn't spend any money to go see it in a theater. Um, I wouldn't even recommend getting it on Redbox or something like that, or Vudu. Like, if it was on Netflix, though, and you had it for free, and it was just a rainy night, I'd recommend it. For a rainy night, and it's free. That's basically, I think, would be worth an hour and 20 minutes of your life at that point. But other than that, that's all I really got to say about it. So yeah, like I said, 5 out of 10. And that's all I got to say about that.